for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with so many sorrows. So, money can be a huge distraction, right? It can be a good thing. I mean, we need money to pay our bills, to eat, to live, to survive. But if we're putting money ahead of what God has us called to do, then it's distracting us from our true calling. We're supposed to take in the money and build it up and have so much that we can't do. We don't even know what to do with it all and give it to other people. That's what we're here for. We're here to be blessed so we can be a blessing. So let's turn to Matthew 6:24. All right. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. So these verses will make a little bit more sense when I actually get into the message of tonight. But, again, you can't serve God and money. If you're trying to serve your money, then you're being distracted from what God has you called to do. And the Bible tells us we can't do it. So if we're trying to do it, we know we're doing it wrong. And we have to look at how to fix that. We have to freely be willing to give whatever money, we all have our things we want, the things that we're saving up for. But when God calls you to say, hey, that little secret stash you got, we're going to go give it here. If you don't freely give it there, then you're distracting yourself from what you're really put on this earth to do. So the Bible warns against distractions caused by money, especially the love of money, which can lead to greed and idolatry, ultimately hindering spiritual growth and relationship with God. So it's not just I'm just going to hold on, and it's just a simple thing like, I'll give next time, it's fine. No, there's a lot of side effects, we'll call it, I guess, of not giving. And there's a lot of things that allowing yourself to get distracted can bring into your life that we don't necessarily look at all the time. So we're going to take some time later tonight to talk about that stuff. But for now, if you guys want to stand up, we'll go ahead and give. Lord, we thank you for this time and opportunity to be able to give into your kingdom. We thank you for the blessings that you've given us, the jobs, the things that we have to go out and make money. We ask that you open our spiritual eyes to where we can be helpful with that money that you've blessed us with. In Jesus' name, amen. So you probably saw a little bit of a theme there through the offering verses. So I tend to be a real, get things done kind of guy. It's just the way I am. And sometimes that's a good thing. There's things you have to get done, things in life you don't really necessarily want to do, but they got to get done. But I tend to sometimes do things what I shouldn't be doing them. You'll see me a lot of times during worship. I'm not in here worshiping like I should be. I'm out there talking to security guys. I'm doing whatever. And it comes a lot, with this new job that I have. I'm out at supplier locations constantly, all the time. And I'm not always at my computer, but there's emails and messages and Teams messages that you have to deal with. And so I have everything set to come through my watch, my Apple Watch. That way I can look at it. If I'm not close to my computer, I can go, does that need to be dealt with right now? Or can I wait a little bit on that and finish what I'm doing? But it's become a real habit now. Every time my watch goes off, last time we came in for Harp and Bowl, and I was like, okay, I'm going to actually plug in this time, and I'm not going to, it's Friday. It's not a normal church day. I don't have to worry about people coming in the building trying to do things they're not supposed to be doing. So I'm going to just go in and worship. And 5 minutes into it, my watch had gone off 4 times. It's just habit now. I don't even think about it. I just look. So I'm like, not tonight. So I popped my watch off, and I pulled my phone out of my pocket, and I threw them on the head usher chairs back there and just left it lay, and I walked away. And it was great because I really got into the worship and connected. Every once in a while, I'd walk into the media room and check cameras, but I'd come back out and I'd get into the worship. So, doing my job, but I'm still focusing on what I should be doing. And so that prompted me to look at a few things in the Bible as to what distraction can cost you. So if I had to title this message, I would title it The Dangers of Distraction. And we know the Bible tells us to put off the sin and the things that so easily beset us, right? So we look at that sin all the time, like, okay, these are the things I can't be doing. But it might not necessarily be sin. It may just be a simple distraction. It's just become habit, like I said, for me to just, so if I'm in service and my watch is going off, I'm going to look at it. I really can't even help myself from doing it anymore. So I'm finding, like, you'll notice I don't have it on right now, because if it goes off, I'm going to look at it. So I've started to find out, when I come to church, I'm either just going to take it off when I get here, or I'm not even going to wear it. And try to at least keep that distraction out. And at least it's, something I know I need to work on, so I'm going to work on it. So I figured I'd check out a few things in the Bible where people got distracted and bad things happened. So we're going to look at two different stories of people that got distracted and didn't handle the distraction the right way. And then we're going to look at two other stories where they refused to let the distraction get in the way of what they were supposed to do. And then I'll share a few takeaway points that I got from this. So first, we're going to go to 2 Samuel 11. And these are going to be very familiar stories, but we'll read through them anyway, just to refresh our memory. I went to the wrong one. All right. It happened in the spring of the year, at the time when kings go out to battle, that David set Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the people of Ammon and beside Rahab, but David remained at Jerusalem. Now remember that point for later on. Then it happened one evening that David arose from bed and walked on the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful to behold. So David sent and inquired about the woman. And someone said, "Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Elam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Then David sent messages and took her, and she came to him, and he lay with her. For she was cleansed from her impurity, and she returned to her house. And the woman conceived, so she sent and told David and said, "I am with child." Then David sent to Joab, saying, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." And Joab sent Uriah to David. When Uriah had come to him, David asked how Joab was doing, and how the people were doing, and how the war prospered. And David said to Uriah, "Go to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah departed from the king's house, and a gift of food from the king followed him. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants and his lord, and did not go down to the house. So we pretty much know the rest of the story. David did something he shouldn't have done, and instead of going to God and trying to get forgiveness for what he had done wrong and fixing it, he decides to cover up the whole thing. So he goes to Uriah, he sends him to try to, go be at home and sleep with his wife so he could say, "Well, it's your baby." That didn't work. So eventually you see where David sends Uriah back to the field. He tells him, send him straight up to the front lines where I know he's going to get killed. And then I'm good. She's grieving her dead husband. I can take it and make it like I'm helping her out. So if we see that, the first couple verses there said, at the time when the kings would go out. Now in that day, when a city went to battle, the kings went with them. They were leading the battle. So the first mistake David made was he left his called place. He walked out of where he was supposed to be, knowing he was supposed to be there, and knowing that was what a king does. That was his calling in life, was to be the king of Israel and to lead that nation in a godly way. And he stepped out of that place where God had called him to be. And when he stepped out of that place where God had called him to be, it allowed the distraction and the temptation to set in. Had David been at war and leading the battle where he should have been, he never would have been on that rooftop to see what he saw, which led to all the other stuff that happened. And then his second mistake was he allowed the thoughts to take root in his mind. Instead of when somebody told him that's Bathsheba, the daughter of this guy and his wife, he should have went, oh, okay, well, we'll forget about that one. Instead, he looked a little further into it and allowed his distraction to take over his mind. And then at the end of it, by this time he's already done the sin. But had he cut the distraction off, or had he been where he was supposed to be so the distraction could never take place, then the sin would have never occurred because that distraction wasn't there. And you can read, if you have time later, we won't get into it now, but read chapter 12, because this is the rebuke of David from all the stuff that he did wrong. And you'll see the stuff that it cost him. I mean, it took him a long time to get over this and get back. Luckily, he did get back into a good standing with God, and he led Israel for a lot more years still and did good things. But it cost him a lot of time where Israel could have prospered even more if they had had that time the right way. All right, so we're going to go to Judges 16. This probably won't be real long. It's not real deep, but. And we're going to read 4 through 21. We'll see. We'll get into it, see how far we get. All right. Actually, I'm going to start in 1. Sorry. Now Samson went to Gaza and saw a harlot there and went into her. When the Gazites were told, Samson has come here, they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city. When they were quiet all night, saying, in the morning, when it is daylight, we will kill him. And Samson lay low till midnight. Then he arose at midnight, took hold of the doors of the gate in the city and the 2 gateposts, and pulled them up, bar and all. All right. After it happened that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, entice him and find out where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and every one of us will give him 1,100 pieces of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, please tell me where your great strength lies, and with what you may be bound to afflict you. And Samson said to her, if they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. So the lords of the Philistines brought up her 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, and she bound him with them. Now men were lying in wait, staying with her in the room. And she said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he broke the bowstrings as a strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength was not known. Then Delilah said to Samson, look, you have mocked me and told me lies. Now please tell me what you may be bound with. So he said to her, if they bind me securely with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. Therefore Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And men were lying in wait, staying in the room. But he broke them off his arms like a thread. Delilah said to Samson, until now you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me what may be bound with. And he said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my head into the web of the loom. So she wove it tightly with the batten of the loom and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he awoke from his sleep and pulled out the batten and the web from the loom. Then she said to him, how can you say, I love you, when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times and have not told me where your great strength lies. So you would think at this point he would be getting a little bit wise to the... yeah, right. But Unfortunately, this keeps going on for a while. She keeps trying things and it doesn't work. And eventually, she breaks him down and he gives her the secret to his strength. It's in his hair. So, she shaves his head while he's sleeping. And then the Philistines take him captive. And it comes all the way down to he's locked up. He's chained up in front of everybody. They're making a mockery of him in front of the whole town. And he prays for one more bout of great strength, and he pushes the pillars down, and the building collapses on top of everybody. But he was in that pile of rubble too. So the first mistake Samson made there was trusting the wrong person. He gave vital information about his life to somebody that was looking to do him harm. We have to be able to discern the people that are in our lives for good and the people that are in our lives to try to trip us up or try to distract us. Because trust me, as much as God sends people into our life to bless us and to help us learn things, the devil sends people into our path to try to trip us up, to see what he can get us to do that we shouldn't be doing. And if we're not ready to recognize that person and say, nope, I'm not going to do that because I know you're looking to do me harm. And but you saw the story. By the third or fourth time, he should have known something was up and been like, I'm not going to tell her anything because obviously she's trying to get me in trouble. And if Samson was wondering, can he trust her, he should have went to God. Is this somebody I can trust? If you're wondering that about people in your lives, what are these people in my life for? Are they here to do me good? Or are they here to do me harm? And that doesn't mean like if they're there to do you harm, you got to completely cut them out. You just got to know you don't share vital information with that person. I'm going to still be a part of their life and try to let my life, the way I live it for God, speak to them. And hopefully they'll come around and it'll actually get them saved out of the whole deal. But I'm not going to give them stuff that will ultimately be my demise because I know that's exactly what they want. They want to be the one that takes me down. All right. So we saw in those two stories, basically, they completely stepped away from what they knew their calling was. They knew they were trusted to do something, and David knew he should have been somewhere else at the time he wasn't, and that's what caused him his time. And Samson just trusted the wrong people. And all those things allowed the distraction to start. And instead of stopping the distraction, instead of going, hey, something's up here, let me go pray about it, they kept going with it. And then you see it got worse and worse until the point where it almost cost David the kingdom of Israel. He almost got kicked out of being king. Luckily, he was smart enough to repent and go on. But it cost Samson his life. He died in that pile of rubble with all the other people that were looking to do bad. Well, he took some bad people out with him, but if he had just done it right, he could have maybe been around to help a lot more people. So we're going to go to Daniel now, and we're going to look at a couple of stories where people actually did it the right way. All right. So it's pretty much all of chapter 6. We'll just read some of it and see where we want to stop. We'll start in verse 1. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 stirrups to be over the whole kingdom, and over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the stirrups might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and the stirrups, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm. So the governors and the stirrups sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find no charge or fault, because he was faithful, nor was there an error or fault found in him. Then these men said, we shall not find any charge against Daniel unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God. So these governors and stirrups thronged before the king and said thus to him, King Darius, live forever. all the governors of the kingdom, the administrators, the satraps, the counselors, the advisors, have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing so that it can be changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter. Therefore, King Darius signed the written decree. So we know the rest of the story. Daniel had his times where he would pray every day, pray at the same time. And he was part of the leadership of this city. So he knew all the new laws that were getting passed and all the things that were going on. So it wasn't like he didn't know about what was this law that had gotten passed, that you're not allowed to pray to anybody else. You're only allowed to worship the king. And these guys, of course, they saw Daniel, and he's getting promoted, and he's living in the favor of God, and people are jealous of that. So they look to do him harm. And they can't find anything wrong with him. They can't find him doing anything wrong or living in sin. But they figure out a way that we can make a law that he'll break because he won't give up what his God has called him to do. And sometimes that people will do that in your life. If they know you're not willing to break in something, they'll try to make that one thing the wrong thing. So you see through here in the punishment, the punishment is if you pray to any other god or worship any other god other than the king, you're going to get thrown in the lion's den. Now, these lions were there specifically to kill. Like, they starved these lions so that when they threw somebody in there, they know those lions are going to eat them. They're not coming back out. We don't want this person in our city anymore. We want to be done with them. So Daniel goes, and he does his normal thing. I'm going to keep doing my thing. I'm going to pray because I know it's right, and I'm going to live right. And whatever happens, I'm going to trust God to protect me through it. So he does it. They find him. They catch him doing it. They go to the king. The king throws him in the lion's den. As much as he liked Daniel, he didn't want to do it. But if he didn't follow through with that, then he looks weak as a king. So he has to do it. And if you read down in the story later, it shows the king, he's walking around all night. He can't sleep. He's worried about what's going on with Daniel. And Daniel's sitting down in the lion's den just chilling. Nothing's going on. God had completely shut the mouths of those lions so they could do no harm to Daniel. Because he did it the right way. So he put his trust in God. You can see in the other stories, they didn't put their trust in God. They made the mistake. They tried to cover it up. Instead, Daniel chose to trust in God. And because of Daniel's faith, later on, when he comes out of the lion's den and there's not a scratch on him, those lions didn't touch him, the king goes, there's something to this God that Daniel served. So from now on, we're all going to serve him. So just by doing it the right way, he changed his whole nation. So now let's look at Daniel chapter 3. This is going to be a pretty familiar story for most of us too. We'll read through part of it. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and its width 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. And King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to gather together the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. So the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the officials of the province gathered together for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then Herod cried aloud, "To you it is command, O peoples, nations, and languages, that at the time you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and pastillery, and in symphony with all kinds of music, you shall fall down and worship the gold image of King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. So at the time when all the people heard the sound of the horn, flute, harp, and lyre in symphony with all kinds of music, all the people, nations, and languages fell down and worshiped the gold image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. All right. So if we skip ahead in this story a little bit, we know Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. We've all probably heard this story in children's church or whatever, but you know, when you actually become an adult and you start to get into these stories, there's actually a lot of stuff in here that you don't catch when you're a kid. So it's good to go back and read them every once in a while and see the different things that you can catch that when you were a kid, you know, you didn't really understand. But now you kind of understand how that applies to your life. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, of course, they were here at they were there for the celebration. They heard the whole announcement. You're going to fall down and worship this idol, and if you don't, you're going to go into the fiery furnace. So, again, it's not like they didn't know what they were putting on the line. It's not like they didn't know what the punishment for their actions was going to be. They knew exactly what was going to happen when they didn't do it. But they had made a decree to God, I will only serve God. You know, we have that in the commandment, you shall serve no other God before me. And they weren't going to break that. So when the music played and everybody fell down and those three didn't, it really angered the king. It made him look like, oh, these three don't think I'm serious. So not only did he decide he's going to throw them in the furnace, but he calls the people, his workers, and tells them, heat that furnace 10 times hotter than it normally is. To the point where when the guy who was taking him up to push him into the furnace, he fell over dead, and he didn't even go in the fire. He was just at the door of it. But when the king looked in a little bit after he had put them in there, you know, he sees 4 people. Wait, didn't I only put 3 people in there? And so he's wondering what's going on. And he decides, he tells them, shut it down. I don't know what's going on in there. Let's figure it out. Well, that was Jesus, you know, walking in there with them. And that's what they knew. They knew, if I got to go in that furnace, God's going to protect me. As long as I keep my word and my promise to him, no matter what is thrown at me, I can overcome it. So you see that from Daniel to these 3, they put their trust in God. So that's a similarity between these 2 stories. And because of this, the king also again goes, hey, well, if they can go through that furnace that killed the guy who didn't even touch the fire and be good, there must really be something to this God that they serve. And so he said, from now on, we're all going to serve this God. So again, their obedience to live out the calling God had for them changed their whole nation. So you don't really see what one small thing you do can change so much. We don't really understand. It's just one small thing. I'm just one person. But if we live out the calling that God has given us, we're capable of anything. There's nothing we can't do. All right, so I'm just going to share a few takeaway points that I got kind of from this study. So point number 1 would be, make sure you're in your called place. If you step outside of your called place, then you're stepping out of the covenant that we're under with God. We've chose to serve him, do whatever he asks us to do, and live our life the right way. If we step out of that, then it takes us out of that umbrella of protection that we get from that, and it allows the devil to be able to come in and distract us, and then that distraction will most of the time lead to sin. And that's what the devil wants to hit us with. Like, oh, it's just a little distraction, but what comes from that distraction that we don't think about? Number 2, say no to thoughts that are not of God. And, you know, if you're reading your Bible and you're praying and you're doing the things you're supposed to do, you know whether a thought is from God or not from God. You know whether that thing you're tempted to do lines up with the word or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, that thought should go right out of your brain. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't care what comes from that. I don't care what it costs me. I don't care if they're going to lock me up in jail or whatever it is. I'm not going to do that. And we have to be, even today, in today's world, we have to be to the same spot these guys were, where I know God's going to protect me from whatever they throw at me, as long as I do it right. Number 3, ask for forgiveness when you mess up. God already saw it. You can't hide the sin. God's in heaven watching you do it. You can't, like David thought he could cover the whole thing up. I mean, maybe he could have. If it would have went the way he wanted it to, maybe he could have covered it up with the people, but God still would have known. And he still would have been in wrong standing with God. And I don't really care what people think about me. If I'm in wrong standing with God, I'm going to fix it. Number 4, make sure you have asked God who you can trust with your vital information. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are looking to help you be successful in the calling you've been put on the earth for and are looking to put into your life, not take away from it. And we all have people, I mean, let's be honest, we all have people that are here to help us out. We all have people that are looking to distract us. If you're walking it out, the devil's not just going to leave you alone. If you're doing it right, he's going to put stumbling blocks in your way and things to trip you up. Number 5, the biggest one, put your trust in God no matter what. No matter what you're going through, no matter what instance you're in, no matter what might come from the decision that you're about to make, put your trust in God. No matter what I think this is going to cost me, or even if it costs me my life, I'm going to do this because I know when I wake back up, I'm going to be in heaven with God. So I'm not going to break what the Bible tells me to do. I'm going to live it out the right way because that's the decision I've made, and I know that the God that I serve is real, and he can protect me from anything. All right. That's all I had for tonight, so we'll pray and go home. Lord, we thank you for this time we've had tonight to learn more about you. Lord, I ask that our eyes be open to the distractions that the devil tries to throw at us, the things that might not necessarily be sin, but the things that can lead to sin. Let us be aware of those things. Let us be brave enough and smart enough to fight those things off and say no to the urges that our flesh wants. We want to serve you all the days of our life.